And I'm here on my YouTube channel, so I'm hoping it pops up. Hey everybody, Greg Met from Met for Knife, MKT USA, and ASK Knives. Boy, I love saying that. I love saying ASK Knives just because it's on. Hey, thanks for stopping in on this, is it Wednesday, hump day? First day of school back for my kids today. Dropped them off at school. I think everybody's kind of doing all that. I'm excited that life's kind of getting back to normal. Everyone's had their head up the collective head up our collective keister for the last year and a half, and I think as everyone rethinks what happened, I think there's a lot of sometimes a policy's too big to change course. So I think we've got some of that going on. I think we've got a whole bunch of people who don't want to look like they made the wrong decision, so they just doubled down on everything. Today, I had a gentleman come in. I knew about this knife company for a few years here in Arizona, and I had this gentleman come in who is a former owner of the company. We don't need it. We're not going to get into all the. We don't really care about why he's not in that knife company anymore. But it was kind of interesting, kind of how our paths crossed, and how he's kind of jumped in to try and be a part of our company. So I thought it would be fun to bring him in and talk a little bit about, the guy is really into knives, a guy that was enough into knives that he started a knife company, and also humble enough to come in and learn how to assemble knives at our company. And, maybe this is all part of a big ploy to start another knife company. Who knows? Maybe he's just like a spy behind the scenes. But I want to welcome our friend Nate Miranda into the shop. Nate, come on in, have a seat with us. How you doing, man? He's got to duck his head because he's 6'10".
Jesus Christ.
Let me get up in there. How's it going, man?
It's going awesome.
So he's out in assembly a little while ago. I'm like, hey, you want to do a podcast? He's like, yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, my fingers are like, please. I love podcasts.
So, Nate, give us the, people are going to say, hey, all right, first of all, what's a knife company?
Ravencrest Tactical.
All right, it's Ravencrest. So you guys were making out the front.
Yes, sir.
What were the bodies? Were the bodies steel or aluminum or what?
They ranged between aluminum alloy and steel alloy.
Okay, so some steel version and some aluminum version.
Yes.
And then the blades, what were they? Some sort of Asian
Correct.
Metallurgy. What were they ish?
440 D2-ish.
Okay, awesome. So I don't know if any of you saw the Ravencrest knives out there. Did you design those knives, or were they kind of a knockoff of something? Give us a little.
So they initially started off as being a bit of a knockoff of something, and then we took them and did our little tweaks to make them our own kind of.
I've never even opened them up. I did at I think Hodgkin and Son. Up on Deer Valley Road. Okay. I think he had a few of them. He was one of our dealers who had a few cases, and I picked them up. I was like, oh, what are those? And he said, oh, they're made in Arizona. I go, no, they're not.
Yeah,
Put it back in. So, and I'm not here to bag on you.
No.
It's funny when you're around knives as much as I've been around knives, and as you are now, you pick it up and you kind of know where you can kind of tell where they're made. It's not always about quality. It's just they have a different feel, just like a lot of Chinese people wear their hat like with a little tag in the back. He's like, oh, that guy's right off the boat. You see other guys not wear their hat.
Yep.
I'm gonna get so much hate mail just from the Asian community who thinks I'm a big racist. I just think it's funny. What was the original design? Kind of a knockoff. Who came up with that?
The original design is Anthony Marafoni from Microtech.
Okay, so it's a Microtech.
It's a Microtech knockoff.
And just so you know, like every out the front knife maker in the world is a Microtech knockoff.
I know. That's why I don't feel so bad saying it, because we're all in the same big boat.
Yeah. I mean, not me, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're not out the front. So,
yeah, that's right. That's right. I try to be out the front, but no. So, you guys, did you kind of reverse engineer one of his models or something? Or?
No, not really. Any model of his I owned, I never wanted to take apart because I wanted to resell them someday. Yeah. So I never did that. I just used my own logic and what I knew about knives to kind of figure out little ways to make it a little faster, a little stronger, and the ways that I could bend and flex. I didn't have freedom to have machinery to go to a machinist.
But you opened one up at some point. To
one of theirs?
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, okay.
Way after the fact.
And did you do all the engineering drawing for that and everything? Okay. What program did you use to draw that up?
I hand drew it, and then I had a friend who would translate it into AutoCAD.
Okay. All right, cool. And then sent the drawings off to a knife making manufacturer over in Asia.
And that's it.
Are you able to tell us who that was?
Geez, the name of it is Vigor MDS. So I don't even know if they exist
Those
anymore.
crafty Chinamen, they come up with so many bullshit names. And now they're taking Philadelphia knife manufacturing. It's made in Long Ling Lang Lang Long.
Well, there's even rumors that there's some crazy rumors I've heard about how the use of made in USA is being even
copied.
Yeah, and by some weird gray area where it's not black and white, but they're saying it's a region called USA, but it's USA. So it's just it's
they're fucking scumbags. They're like,
it's pretty shitty.
We make this city here called America, so we can say made in America.
It's pretty that's what it is. It's dealing out there is pretty shady.
I mean, they're fucking shady motherfuckers. And okay, all right. This didn't mean to bash China video. Tell me a little bit about kind of how you got that started. It was just you, or you had some partners at the time?
That's a partner. So
okay, and we're not going to go into all that, but I just want to get an idea kind of how you balled into it.
So for me, I was buying knives since I was a little kid, and then it got to that point where I'm like, I need to monetize this passion. And at the time, I owned a pen company, like a writing pen company.
What was that company?
Carbon pens.
Okay.
So carbon fiber writing pens.
Okay.
And come December, I thought the best kind of gift set to give to a dude is a pen and knife gift set. And I always loved knives. So I said, let me see if I could find a knife that people really want, but it's hard to find.
You ever go to Penchetta over in Scottsdale? Penchetta pen.
Oh,
pen
actually,
and knife.
yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that place is, they actually were trying to be a dealer of ours for a minute.
Cool.
But anyways, so ended up finding a source through the online mediums of finding people overseas, and ended up finding someone that made the highest quality I could find, got it here, found a hole in the market, and just launched into it. And that was our history.
And what was the price point?
Price point was starting at $120, and they'd go up to $279 with full customization, depending on what you would do.
So, and then there have been a shit ton of dudes jump into that space.
Yes.
Especially since Texas legalized OTF and a couple of the other states that were kind of strangleholding it. It's funny, for guys that make OTF, there are a lot of resellers, or there are a lot of distributors and onliners, several who won't carry them because they're like too problematic legality wise. But it seems like a lot of that's going away because they're like,
it is.
It's like, yeah, man, there's too much. There's like a lawyer. The famous thing is, well, we talked to our lawyers, and really what they meant is, there's too much money to be made for us to not do this. So we found a way to mitigate our risk, and that's the way they're handling it now.
I heard the rumor was that the NRA got involved with kniferights.org, which is like and you know who they are, obviously.
That's Doug here in town. Doug Ritter. Yeah.
So they got together, and supposedly that whenever there's a new legislation for decriminalizing CCW stuff, you're also voting to decriminalize spring-assisted knives.
Yeah, and they've got that. There's kind of like two big. There's Knife Rights and a couple other groups. And I know they're doing some good. I never can tell which. It seems like when everyone's talking about AR-15s, knives seem like kind of a non-issue. But I know Texas, they were illegal in Texas for years, and all of a sudden they became legal in Texas.
And there still are there's a weird legality there where if you have a double-edged blade, both sides count to the total length. So if you have a 4-inch spear, it's an 8-inch blade by their math.
It's too bad they don't measure penis that way.
There'd be some guy with the big pickup truck.
Yeah. No, not really, man. Just one side.
You
only get to measure one side, man. I don't even know what to say after that. So, when did you kind of get out of that business?
Actually, a calendar year ago.
1 year ago.
Yeah.
And then you showed up on our doorstep a couple months ago.
Yep.
And was that through Jeff, or how did we connect?
So I'd gotten to a point where I needed something to do. I'm a person that likes to move and work. And
you basically got out of that business, and then you had a break in the middle.
I did. I took some time off to reflect, figure out what I wanted to do next. Decided it'd be great to get back into knives, but doing it in a way that I've always wanted to. And that was researching it, finding out you were here locally. It was a dream. Being a knife connoisseur and having one of the top guys in the world in your back step was pretty appetizing. So I sent an email to the website, basically saying, I love knives. I love what you guys do. You looking for someone?
And wait a minute, who's the top guy? Who's one of the top guys in the world?
Well, you're a humble guy. So I think you're the guy. So
I'm always like, oh, not me. You're not talking about her, right?
I do.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So anyways, so I contacted the website. Amy and Jeff got back to me and just kind of met up, and then here we are.
Okay, so you kind of reached out to us.
I did. I reached out to you guys.
Cool. So I guess, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was really kind of when you showed up. I know we sat and talked, and I said, hey, I got this new company, ASK, I'm ramping up, and there's, maybe there's a place, I don't know where that place is yet, because the company's not gelled yet. And you're doing, you said, well, I could build all kinds of building skills and all that, and I put knives together and all of that. And I said, well, look, let's try in there and let's see it. Let's school you on how we make knives, and then kind of see what happens from there. And we're at the let's see what happens from there point right now.
Very much, yeah.
But how's the last month been learning how to make knives our way?
So, I mean, it's been like a tug of war between extremely challenging, but such a gratifying experience. The amount that goes into each one is staggering, but when it's completed and done, there's nothing that feels better than knowing that that knife is going to find a home and the next person's going to love it for life, because it ain't going to break. I know that. So it's been amazing. It's been a mix of things, and I will never forget it.
I find a lot of times people are, no matter what their knife background is, when they step in and get to making knives our way, it's a little humbling, because I think people, they see these tool finishes that we have on our exteriors, because you could see the knives we make. They're meant to be used.
Oh, yeah.
And I try to use semi-distressed finishes everywhere I can, because it makes people less inclined to safe clean them or touch them with gloves. I want them to take them out with their bare hands, stick them in their pocket and carry them. I want them to use them. I think that people don't realize how precision the inside of the knife is. So maybe you could tell us a little bit of what you've noted from that.
Yeah. So, coming from a knife collector, you spend money, you get a knife that's a completed product. You don't really think too much into how many people touch that. What did they have to do to get it there? You just go, well, I spent X amount of dollars. I'm cool. After this experience, I can sit back and go, every single knife that I've built or that I now take away from here has been in the hands of 10 to 13 different people, from the machining to the finishing to then the assembly to then back to ship. I mean, it's staggering. And then in regards to the assembly side of it, to see that, you talk tight tolerances, and it's a term that, people hear it and maybe it's like a buzzword. They go, oh, well, that must mean it's snug and all that, but there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, the way the knives move after they find their groove is something I can't replicate in any of my other knives. Now, when you've said it before, when you first put them together, they're problematic sometimes. You got to work them in and do the things that you've taught us to do to get it right. But once it gets there, it's butter. And it's a great feeling to hold something like that you could then take out and beat the crap out of. That's what I can't do with my other knives. I don't feel confident I could take them out and beat my cinder block wall with it, and the cinder wall would fail.
All right, we don't want anybody doing that. No, I know what you mean. I've always been trying to go for, how do we, I read about the development of the R2800, which was a aircraft engine for World War II. It's this tome about 4 inches thick. It's, I don't know, 2,800 pages, like an R2800. It's a lot of pages, and they're all like machinist handbook, thin little wispy pages. I mean, it's a lot, and it's dense, 8th order cam vibrations, and it's all of this heavy engine physics. And I remember just reading all the sections in there about how they had mated surfaces and bearing surfaces. And as I get to knife making, I came out of aviation. I didn't come out of making airplane parts for a company. I came out of flying airplanes. And I wanted, you always talk about when you get a new aircraft engine, you gotta, you run certain kind of oil in it so that it breaks in. You want your rings to seat. And then I got to talk to a good friend, Joe Moriarty, who owned a company called Total Seal Piston Rings. He passed away a few years ago, but he was a dear friend, and we talked about how metal surfaces of different types made up together over time. And so I'm playing with knives, and I decide I'm going to go in the knife business, and I wanted to do something different than I had seen. So everywhere I went, every knife I lay hands on, every knife's got play and wiggle in it. It's one of the things that annoys me. I didn't like on my aircraft, if you were pulling a propeller through, clearing the lower cylinders of oil, if you moved it backwards or forwards, there was a lash in the motor. There was a lash in the gearbox for the propeller, and I know why that's there, and that's supposed to be there, and it's okay, but it always just kind of, from a mechanical standpoint, just kind of annoyed me a little bit. That's all the variance, unstacking and restacking as you move the engine. So when I get to making knives, I just want to get rid of all of that. You know, I want all of that completely gone, because there's no reason to have lash in any direction in such a simple tool. And turns out it's pretty fucking hard to do
I
it.
was just gonna say, it's really hard to get it out too. It's not. That's not like, oh yeah, it shouldn't be there, so we snap fingers and it's gone. It's hours sometimes.
It's
Hours.
absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've talked to folks before, you know, especially business guys. They always want to talk business with me, and they want to consult me on how to like grow my business. And I'm like, man, I can't make enough stuff. There's more market that I could build. I don't need your help. And I'm not like arrogant, like I got it all figured out. I'm like, I got a choke point. It's called making this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Making this stuff is fucking hard. And I was giving somebody a tour, and they said, you know, aren't you nervous about showing everybody? Hey, or people have said, oh, you got this guy that owned a knife company. Aren't you nervous about it? No, I'm like, shit, no. If someone could figure, I mean, we know what we're doing, and it's hard to do. Like, we know what we're doing, and we could barely do it.
Well, and coming from that background, and you know, it's loosely saying it, but now there's no way I'd want to go back in. You know, now that I've seen what it takes to do it right, I'm not a person who's gonna, you know, want to do it half-assed after I see it done right. There's no way. Like, why?
Well, you know,
it
and
doesn't make
to be
sense.
fair to like almost everybody else, you know, maybe their way's right and mine's insane.
Maybe.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a knife that's got a little play in it if it locks and does its job, and it was,
Sure.
the price was right, and it was no, you know, maybe I'm crazy for doing it the way I do. There's nothing wrong with that. I just was thinking about like what's better for the earth. How many times should we yank steel out of the earth to make a cool pocket knife? How many times do we replace shit just because it wears out or because it becomes sloppy? You can't replace the parts.
Mm-hmm.
How many times your dishwasher breaks and you know it's the pump? You go to buy the pump's half as much as just buying a new dishwasher. Well, you got a little rust maybe around the carriage. One of the wheels is a little janky and it doesn't close quite right. So you're like, oh, fuck, I'll just get a new one.
Mm-hmm.
So you just start replacing everything. And it's like the opposite of conservation and taking care of the planet.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not a greenie weenie. I'm just, I don't like wasting. You know, if I've got this Swedish dishwasher and it's got 8 years on it and the pump goes out, I just want to replace the pump, and maybe I can get another 10 years out of the thing because it's such good quality. It just keeps on going.
Right.
I feel like I want my knives to be that way. I wanted my sunglasses to be that way. I wanted my Dave Clark headsets when I was flying to be that way. I want my boots to be that way. You know, I don't want to get a pair of boots and then they break in, and by the time they're broke in, they're kind of worn out, and it's time to replace them. I got to go through that whole rigmarole again. Nope, I want to send them in and get new soles put on them. Maybe have 2 pair of boots that I rotate that I absolutely love, that fit me and they'll last me forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I want the same thing with a knife. So my whole thing is really about, you know, when you get a little older, you start having some money and you start having choices about how you consume.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, you know, I don't need everything. The stuff that I need, I want to be spectacular. And that's kind of what drove me. And so what informed me was not a shiny blade. What informed me was not hand-rubbed surfaces. What informed me was the mechanism. The lock, the pivot, simplicity, field expedience. You know, I'd been in the military, so I had this kind of like rugged, every Joe can use it.
Mm-hmm.
You can piss on it to wash it off if you need to, if it could just keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't go with a complicated locking mechanism. I went with something simple. But it's not simple, is it?
Not at all. And I think it might, for the normal knife guy, it might just be taken for granted just how complicated it is to get the shoulder of that blade to land on that you know, the spring of it, and not have the way that it's perfectly seated, that when they just mate and it locks in and it's not going to move anywhere. just that feeling in that process it's incredible.
There's a triangle between the pivot, the stop, and the point that holds it in place, and balancing that triangle perfectly is really the key. And people don't understand that about knives. I know a lot of guys who make frame locks who don't have the same expectation I do. They just want it to lock.
Of course.
And, you know, we're out there chasing 1/4 of a degree.
And you know, for me, like it, and I love knives, I love all of this, but I had to learn metallurgy a lot more than I thought I would have to. So now, you know, I'm a little bit more understanding of titanium and how it works, how it bends, and even how water jets and how the different tools affect it, how it comes out, and why we have to treat it different ways based on what tool was just on it last. And that's some pretty cool detailed stuff, but I don't know how many other guys really take that much into account for it unless they're making one knife a month. You know, there's guys out there like that who...
Yeah, there are some guys who do some crazy one-off knives, but I'll tell you something. Those knives are so expensive. Exactly. I don't know how they actually hold up to working.
Well, they probably don't get used.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, there are some guys who make 1 or 2 knives a month that go for crazy money, and I've seen them. They're beautiful knives. I've never even had a chance to put my hands on one because it's kind of a white glove affair.
Right.
I mean, and that's cool. Like, it's kind of bragging rights. Oh, I sold a knife for this one. I sold a knife. Oh, okay, well, you know, good for you. If someone, I've never ever seen someone carry your knife. Like, to me, I'd rather see dudes walk around town carrying my knife than to brag to somebody I sold a knife for $23,000
and it sits in the dark
at a knife show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I've never seen one carried. Oh, I've seen one. It came out of a sponge thing with a felt container around it, you know? That just doesn't like do anything for me.
Right.
Just like, you know, I remember guys they would make the most perfect airplane ever. I'm like, why don't you go fly, man? There's like flying to be done. Let's go fly these things. Oh, I just cleaned it. Jesus, man, let's go fly. These are awesome airplanes. Same thing with knives. I want to see them out there. The biggest stroke for me is when I see one. Like, I just see one. Like, I have it out in town. Occasionally somebody I don't know goes by and I see an M hanging out of their pocket. I'm like, oh.
That's,
or
it'll never get old, right?
No, that doesn't get old. That's totally fun because it means I made something that got out there that somebody covets and finds useful. That to me is the biggest thing. People are like, on the exterior, you have to have a huge ego to do this because everybody's taking shots at you. And when you do this, you got to really think you're bringing something to the table. And I think you had a perception of us from outside. How's the perception from inside match to the outside?
It's been very parallel. You guys do a very good job of letting the world know the fundamental parts of your company and what you're about, what's important to you, what you don't like. And there's no, everything that you say is though exactly the way it is. There's no nonsense or BS here. It is exactly how it's pitched. Everything is done like you say. If it's not done, it gets kicked back. One tiny imperfection. We all know, like, and when I say tiny, I mean, you got to get a magnifying glass. It doesn't pass. You got to start over.
Yeah, sometimes I got to walk out like I did this morning and wrap everybody collectively on the back of the head and be like, guys, enough already. These parts are good. Stop it.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, there's this little tumble mark under the finish. I'm like, we just rolled that in a bunch of stones for 12 hours. Yeah, it's got tumble marks on it, for God's sake.
Yeah, as you get a little gun shy where like every little thing you start wondering, oh no, is this going to fail it? But that, again, it makes the product. And there could be 100 ways to compromise that and make the process go faster and easier, but then it's not a Medford knife, and then that's not the point of doing this. So the change can't happen, you know.
Let's take a quick break to get a word from our sponsor while I talk to my producer for a second.
What's the difference between a wet raccoon and Donald J. Trump's hair? A wet raccoon doesn't have $7 billion fucking dollars in the bank. Plus,
Trump, thanks for stepping in. We appreciate a little comedic insight from you. So now that we've decided that you've decided you're not going to be assembler and we're moving on to other things, we're talking about a social media position with us. Doing some memes, doing some social media, and maybe fitting that into a couple other side hustles you may have going on out there. Do you think after playing with it for a few hours, I saw some stuff you did, I thought it was cool. What do you think? Do you think it's something you might want to do?
I'd love it. Okay. That would be my skill set, what I'm naturally gifted at.
I think that if there's anything, you know, it's really hard to hire some whippersnapper to come in and take pictures of our stuff and push our attitude out into the marketplace. And you heard the big talk I had with you today. I was like, hey, man, we don't sell. We just tell. We don't sell. We just tell what we're doing and let everybody decide on their own. And some guys hate us and some guys love us. And there's a whole bunch of people in the middle. It's funny. It's funny how many people hate us because of me and hate us because of the Praetorian, it being $1,200 or whatever. They just hate us. And it's funny how many of them repeat why they hate us off of a forum from 2011. And they don't understand the variety of stuff we make now.
And like for me, being a person who's not a hater, but who I guess I was more consumer than knife owner, I look at those guys and I go, what have you done though? Are you one of those guys who like watches the UFC with a big gut and a bowl of Cheetos and yelling at them?
Whoa, easy there.
Well, but come on, you've done martial arts. I'm not, but you don't like those guys that are armchair quarterbacks for everything. Like, are you going to tell a guy how to run his knife business? What have you done? You just buy knives and critique them? That's not, you don't have a place to, do all that stuff. So.
I saw a story today and I don't want to get it wrong, but I think it was the CEO of Whole Foods. He got on, he's a conservative. And you could tell he's a conservative, but he's really sketchy about saying anything because he's the CEO of Whole Foods, which is hippie foods, basically, right?
Very much.
And the guy was basically saying how companies should not take any political stance. And I was thinking about it, and, all of these positions you take cut both ways. If you say, well, don't be a pussy, take a stance. Well, then you've got companies out there telling everybody that they have to get vaccines. They're telling everybody, okay, well, you can't. We're not going to carry firearms in our stores anymore. I mean, I guess that's fair, but what they're deciding is that legal things that they carry, they don't agree with public policy, so they're just going to start doing it on their own.
I don't like that,
and it kind of annoys me.
Yeah.
Like Yeti. People lost their shit over Yeti. And Yeti didn't go out like all anti-Second Amendment. They just kind of made a mild position shift. And it freaked NRA people out. They went crazy and were all anti-Yeti about it. And I don't really know all the ins and outs of it. All I know is they make a fantastic product. And I kind of want to support companies that make fantastic products. And I heard the Second Amendment stuff. And I said, geez, come on. There's no way they can. And then I read about it. And I was kind of like, it was really subtle, and it was what happened. I don't know if you remember the whole hullabaloo that went down with Benchmade.
I do. Yeah, the weapons destruction, all that.
Yeah, and when that thing went down, everybody went batshit crazy against Benchmade, and I got on like really publicly and supported them.
I didn't see that, but I'm glad you took that position.
Well, it wasn't to take a position. It was just like, hey, everybody, calm the fuck down. Did you actually see what the guy? And then he tried to apologize about it, and it ended up coming off badly. Instead of just being a baller and going with it, his apology was worse.
I didn't catch that.
Now, he's since passed away.
Yeah.
But, these companies like us, what if we were in Connecticut? We'd have to play ball with all these liberal Democrats. We'd have to find a way to do business with them and all these police departments that are run by Democrats. And I said, hey, guys, they have to interact with all these departments up there. They have to interact with all of the OSHA people are all Democrats up in Oregon or wherever the hell they're made. They have to interact with these people. They have to live in town with them. They can't be radical Second Amendment lunatics. They don't need to be.
Right.
But because they said something that the Second Amendment people went nuts. And I kind of had this realization. I was like, man, everybody on both sides has got a bunch of sand in their pussies.
Oh yeah, and they're really excited to show it to you as soon as at any opportunity they can.
Yeah, and I'm like, God, I didn't see it. So I got out and I said something in support of him, and I thought, and what's funny is I had numerous employees from Benchmade personally email me and thank me for sticking up for them because they were getting thrown under the bus by everybody.
Everyone.
Like I saw guys using that as advertisement for their knife company.
It was it was sad.
It was kind of bad. I was like,
oh man.
I was like, geez,
man. The internet exploded for a day when that happened.
It did. And they're probably all Second Amendment gun-toting folks up there, but they live in a lefty area and they got to kind of dance a little bit.
And the police department asked them a favor. What are you going to, they probably have contracts with the department. What are they going to do? Say no?
I know, it's unbelievable. I'm thinking about if there is a knife company in America that has a law enforcement and military contracts, of course it's Benchmade, and they're in everywhere. Well, so you've gotten to see inside and outside. We're at least true to ourselves.
100%.
It's Easier or way harder than you thought?
Way harder. Way harder.
Okay. And you know what's funny to me, and you're going to probably experience this. It's funny to me to see if you try to put on the knife world's hat and you pick up our knives and test them the way they do, or the way we do and the way they do, almost every knife we ever make passes. And then we fail a whole shit ton of them because of what we're looking for. So I see people, they look at the side finish of the blade, or they look at the angle of this, or they want to check what's the counter bore height. And, you know, we nail all those. They're phenomenally tight tolerances. But then I'm really concerned about the inside of the knife. And I'm concerned about this mechanism, how it feels. And everyone always says, oh, it feels like a Medford. Oh, it sounds like a Medford. That's because it's everything's very connected the way a drum head is. It's all connected everywhere, and it has a resonance to it. Even the button locks. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah.
Like, our button locks don't sound like normal button locks.
No. There is a sound. I wish I could have an audible way to describe it. But
I guess we could we could do one sometime. We could do like a Herbie Hancock up to the microphone with a bunch of knives. Say, listen.
Oh, yeah. It makes that little kiss sound. It's great.
I hate doing it because you gotta compare them to other knives. But as I walk around, you know, I pick up knives. People hand me their knives they're carrying. Oh, Greg, I'm sorry, this is what I'm carrying. And they hand me everybody and anybody's knife. And I just feel it in 1 second. I open up, wiggle, 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 and oh, that's a great knife. I hand it back to him. And I think to myself, oh my God, that's got lash and 2 planes. It would never leave the factory. And there's some of the best makers in the business. And knives wear in, and people use stuff that's not brand new. It gets older, it wears in. And, you know, that's something I wanted to try and get rid of as much as I could. If you find one of our knives and the tip is off center, it's because it's been opened or the pivot screw's loose. If you find one of our knives that's got blade lash in it, the pivot's been opened or it's gotten loose somehow. And it's an easy fix. Tighten it back up, clean it really well, Loctite. And it's because there's so much surface area that's been lapped in by hand, making them kind of perfectly mated up.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so somebody said to you, you leave on Friday, we never talk again. Somebody says, what's the top 3 things you learned in Medford Knife and Tool? What would they be?
Top 3 things. Top 3 things I learned. One, the importance of not compromising work because of it's hard, right? Like that's a big thing here where there's 100, like I said, 100 ways to make this process go faster, but none of them are taken because it's not the right way to do it. The skills I've learned, tool skills, just learning the appropriate way to do these things without damaging the product itself.
And to hold a screwdriver, right?
Exactly. No, seriously. I mean, I had to change all of my habits for this. And then just leadership. You know, I think you lead in a very unique and great way. And I've appreciated being around it and seeing it and learning from it.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I occasionally I get new people in the company like, oh my God, what? You know, I just told somebody yesterday, I was like, hey, listen, man, work comes first. And they kind of looked at me. I said, is it family or work? Which is more important? And I said, don't say anything. Of course it's family. Family's not the most important thing. It can't be. Because if we don't work, like the mother lion who feeds herself before her offspring, we're not here for tomorrow. So I have an old-fashioned way of looking at things because my family came here from Europe during World War I and earlier. We came because of poverty in Ireland. And poverty and starvation. And my family came because of poverty and starvation in Greece.
Wow.
That's why my family's here. And the sentiments that echoes through the generations of my family is work so you can eat, so you can pay for your family and your kids have a better life. Like that's the pillar of American history.
It is.
So that your kids can have a better life. It was never, how do we balance work and life so that we can be there for every moment for our kids? I'm not there for every moment. I miss a bunch of them. I'm there for a lot of them. I think I balance it. And part of it is my kids know work is super goddamn important. And to try and push that out into everybody, people think, oh, you're awful, or that's awful. And people with careers know work's got to, at some level, be the most important thing because it's your vocation. It's what you do. 8 or 10 hours or 12 hours a day sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
So how to balance that? I have to temper my sentiments about that to fit in a modern time where everyone's trying to balance home and work. Because love and adore my family. My kids, I love and adore them, and they're flying the coop. They grow up and they go away.
Yeah, real fast.
And what's left is me and my career, me and my house, Christmas time with the kid. You know, I mean, I get the time, we get the time with them, but kids, what do you think when you see a 48-year-old who lives with mom and dad?
Yeah, sad.
You think it's bad, right? Okay, which means our kids are supposed to grow up and go away. So in some level, they are the most important thing right now to me. But in general, my career has a longer arc to it. And I'm really kind of focused on making a dent in the world with my work.
And you have the luxury too of having then a future generation to train into this and, you know, have for the next, you know, the next version.
Maybe, you know, maybe I don't want to trap my kids in this, you know, maybe it's going to be something where we do an ESOP and the employees buy the company when I'm done. Who knows? But I think about, you know, there's more fathering that goes on than just a biological couple of kids you have around your house. There's mentoring and parenting that goes on at a bigger level. And you know, I had a discussion. I had it in front of one of my supervisors, and they were aghast at the way I spoke to our new employee because they missed a few days. And I was like, listen, man, I don't know what everyone's told you out there, but if you want a real job, you want to be important to the team, you don't miss a few days in your first 2 weeks on the job. You got to hustle, and you got to have work kind of come first, and it'll all unfold for you really well. And they were like, yes, sir. And we talked, and I go, don't just yes, sir. Understand what I'm saying. Of course, family is important. Of course, if something serious goes on, of course. We make exceptions for everybody all the time for family stuff, all the time. But it's for guys who kind of struck that balance. And you can't have people that once a week miss a day at work because the team, how much does the assembly team rely on every guy in there?
Oh, it's a team effort every day.
Yeah. And it's tough. Imagine if you had a basketball team and one of the 5 guys is missing every other week.
That's exactly what it is in there. That's a perfect analogy.
And it's the way I feel, it's the way I feel about the grind room too. I mean, everywhere I don't have any extra people sitting around with their feet up doing nothing. Everybody's hustling their ass off.
All day long.
So, so your 3 big takeaways, did we cover those?
We did. So the tool skills, not compromising,
no compromise. Devil's in the details.
And then just great leadership.
All right. Leadership. Okay, cool. Neat. And then
also great knives. So I've taken away some of those by, you know, becoming a collector of those since I've been here.
I heard that we shouldn't even give you a paycheck. We should just pop knives off to you.
That's all I'm doing with it. Like I'm amassing a collection now.
So as things change with us, as our relationship changes, I hope that you get into a social media position with us because I think it'd be fun. I saw the memes you did today. I thought they'd be great. I'd love to see how you take pictures at this point. So maybe tomorrow, spend 2 hours first part of the day just taking cool pictures around.
Okay.
And while you're at it, if you see a cool picture, take a 3-second video so that you can throw them into a montage in one of those apps and give me a little, 30-second montage of the shop.
Okay.
I think those are great fun, and I think everybody out there in YouTube and Facebook, I think they really like seeing behind the curtains, and they like seeing it from the perspective of not Greg, from somebody else who's in the company. It's kind of a fresh view. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you being here, Nate.
Always.
Anything else you want to cover before we go?
No, man. Thank you.
Well, listen, everybody. Bottom line is what's going on is we're going to be shifting the company over from our social media from live straight to Facebook. We're actually going to be working onto our YouTube channel. And we're going to be pushing everything to YouTube, and then we're actually launching an alternate universe that we can post our videos in for inevitably when I get yanked off the air. So I just wanted to give everybody a heads up about that. I want to thank so many of you who wrote to me the last couple of days talking about the ASK knife that we launched, that we're launching. I showed you guys a really cool preview of that. I think so many of you enjoyed that. I like the feedback, and it gives me, I don't know, if it puts a little pep in my step as I launch a new product, which usually scares people. And I don't know, just been great fun. I hope you guys enjoyed having Nate in, hearing a little bit of his kind of behind-the-scenes perspective. And I think you'll be seeing a little more of his humor. So, Greg Medford from Medford Knife, ASK Knives out here in Phoenix, Arizona, live and for the future. I'm out.